The crystalline halls of the Galactic Council shimmered in hues of violet and silver, echoing with whispers that rippled like currents through water. Hundreds of species sat coiled, folded, perched, or levitating within the grand amphitheater. Eyes and sensors focused on the central dais, where the curved holoscreen flickered to life. Ambassador Dar of Corvallis Prime stood tall, his 7 eyes blinking in sequence, and his forearms clasped together in ceremonial calm. His bioluminescent robe swayed as he activated the recorded footage. "Observe," he said, voice deep and gelatinous, modulated through a translator that echoed across marble and glass. The holoscreen shimmered with scenes from Earth's orbit. A fleet of Andromedian scouts approached the pale blue planet. As per protocol, they fired warning pulses toward Earth's upper atmosphere, intended to disable communication and strike fear. But something unexpected happened. Light flared from Earth's surface, not explosions, but countermeasures. Railgun. Slugs erupted from orbital shadows, moving too fast to be seen by the naked eye. The lead scout ship buckled mid-sentence, folding in half before disappearing in a blossom of white flame. A hush fell over the chamber. C's voice deepened. The first contact wave was eliminated within seconds. Laughter erupted dry, clicking, gurgling from species with too many mouths and too little understanding. Commander Vex, scaled and draped in crimson battle leather, leaned back in her seat. Her tail twitched with boredom. Eliminated? You mean by one of their weather anomalies? She sneered. They still use combustion engines and metal teeth for war. What? Did your scouts expect precision from the mud dwellers? Her words, laced with contempt, drew chuckles and tail slaps of agreement from the inner core species. Many nodded, some out of genuine dismissal, others to not be the lone skeptic. Seether's tendrils curled, displeased. I do not bring this. Forward lightly. The ships were annihilated before they could broadcast full telemetry. The debris patterns suggest impact-based kinetic weaponry, with power we did not know they possessed. High Speaker Molinth of the Trinault Syndicate, whose mouth was a vibrating sonic slit, buzzed sharply. Are we expected to fear these bipeds? Their history is riddled with self-destruction. Let them posture. They will kneel like the others. Vex nodded. Initiate pacification protocol Theta. Strike their military command. A demonstration. Let them understand their place without. Full annihilation. They are not a threat, just a planet with delusions. A unanimous tone echoed 32 agreement chimes sounded in the hall. The vote was passed. Earth would be pacified. None of them noticed the pulse hidden in Seethers. Second display an encrypted packet intercepted by Earth months earlier. It showed the coordinates of scout ship paths, their signal modulations, their command line traces. Earth had seen this attack coming, and Earth was already building. Far below their perception, in the ice trenches of Europa, a human stealth. Satellite pivoted silently, its eye observing the vote in real time through long-range subspace taps. It did not panic. It logged the vote, filed it under expected aggression, and sent a pulse back to Earth. In a quiet, buried command center beneath Antarctica, lights blinked on. Human eyes read the message. Pacification Protocol Theta. Confirmed. Project Horizon. Initiate Phase 2. Earth would not wait for the stars to fall. It would reach for them first. The moon hung in space like a sentinel, silent, cold, and ancient. But it was no longer the dead rock the Galactic Council remembered. Beneath its cratered surface, machines hummed. Heat radiated in controlled pulses from buried reactors. Defense arrays, camouflaged in lunar dust, slowly turned to track invisible targets. From above, it looked barren. From below, it was alive. The single Andromedian scout ship slipped past Mars under a cloak of reflective silence. Its hull refracted light in strange patterns, its heat signature barely above vacuum background. The pilot, a chittering insectoid named Raxil, was proud to fly in the first reconnaissance wave. Earth was already marked for subjugation. This was just clean up. Raxil blinked his compound eyes as he approached lunar orbit. His scans showed nothing. Primitive satellites, old orbital junk, some lingering military-grade relays. All as expected. He smirked, at least as much as a carapached soldier could, and the moon blinked dot just once. A pulse of energy shimmered across its horizon brief, and so precise that his instruments almost missed it. He leaned forward. What was that? From the sea of tranquility, something unfolded like a flower made of black metal. It bloomed into shape with impossible symmetry. Then came another, and another. Dozens, massive structures embedded into the moon's crust, rose silently and without fanfare. Towering railguns, sleek and ominous, slowly turned outward, not toward Earth, but toward Space Dot. The scout ship's sensors screamed. Raxil had seconds to respond. He slammed his claws into the control panel, attempting to veer off. But it was too late. The nearest railgun didn't fire a slug. It launched a kinetic dart with magnetic acceleration nearing orbital escape velocity. That there was no explosion, no warning. Just a momentary tremor in the moon's dust as the scout ship became red mist. Earth, in a secure facility beneath the Rockies. Commander Line Mercer folded her arms as she watched the event on a wall of holoscreens. The scout had violated Earth space. The moon had answered. Clean shot, muttered Major Enzo, adjusting the feed. Didn't even trigger secondary protocols. Mercer nodded. Make sure the footage leaks. Let them see just enough to make. Then second-guess the next wave. Enzo grinned. You want to spook the council? I want them nervous, she said. They think we're behind. Let them keep thinking that until it's too late. Back in the Galactic Council, the Andromedian Commander Vex paced before a council war map, her tail thrashing. The recon ship had gone dark. No distress signal, no black box ping. Just gone. She hissed, uneasy. This shouldn't be possible. Even our weakest systems can survive a minor engagement. Something shot him down. The Keplerian ambassador shifted in his nest. Could it be sabotage? A malfunction? Vex narrowed her golden eyes. Or perhaps we underestimated them again. In the far corner of the chamber, the young analyst. Kiral adjusted her holotablet, her glowing blue skin flushing with urgency. She cleared her throat. I believe. We've made a mistake, she said softly. No one turned. I believe Earth has been preparing, she said louder. Not openly. Not like we do. But hidden. Underground. Their military advances are not random. They've been designing a parallel infrastructure. Vex waved a claw dismissively. They have no FTL, no plasma arrays. They are apes with toys. Kirel didn't flinch. She tapped her display. It lit with satellite imagery, pulsing heat, maps and electromagnetic anomalies across the moon and Earth's crust. This isn't random heat. It's structured, geometric, coordinated. She hesitated, then added, this isn't reaction. It's strategy. Starr leaned in, his expression unreadable. What are you saying, analyst? Kirel looked up, voice steady. I think the humans knew we were coming. I think they've known for years. And now ... They're ready. Silence followed ... far beyond the edge of the solar system. Hidden in the shadows of Saturn's rings, a stealth carrier flickered to life. The words etched on its hull read, EDF Phantom Class, Horizon Strike Unit 3. The engines powered up heading outward, not inward. Toward the stars. Earth wasn't just defending ... it was preparing to strike back. The sky above Earth's atmosphere darkened with a strange silence, as 6 sleek vessels of the Andromedian fleet pierced the thermosphere. Their hulls shimmered with distortion fields, cloaked in layers of quantum scatter designed to confuse primitive radar and satellite pings. To them, Earth's defenses were formality-symbolic posts manned by outdated minds. Commander Vex stood on the bridge of the lead ship, Polaris Fang, her arms crossed behind her back. The view screen showed Earth's rotation below, cities, twinkling along the coastlines like scattered dust. Her voice was calm but condescending. Target major military hubs: Eastern Seaboard, Eurasian Defense Grid, orbital satellite clusters. Gentle strikes. Remind them who rules the stars? Yes, Commander, her navigator hissed. Strike paths locked, non-lethal shockwave patterns armed. The first wave launched precision pulse lances, designed not to kill, but to disable. The Andromedian philosophy of conquest was clear. Break the will, not the bones. Let them beg. Then rebuild them under Council supervision. But this time, Earth didn't break. From the moment the lances cut through the stratosphere, something went wrong. A ripple faint, electric, and deliberate ran through the upper atmosphere. The first Andromedian ship detected interference, but too late. Atmospheric disruption. Fields activated along Earth's magnetosphere. The lances veered off course, split apart, and disintegrated mid-air. From Alaska to Siberia, hidden bunkers erupted open. Long-barreled rail cannons, disguised for years under geologic camo, extended. Skyward, silos long thought abandoned hummed with power. Pulse cannons on low-orbit platforms turned silently toward their marks. On board the Polaris Fang, the alarm shrieked before Vex could ask for a status report. Multiple launch signatures from. Surface heat signatures confirm planetary-grade kinetic weapons. We're being locked. Evade, she barked. But Earth wasn't firing at them yet. Instead, the attack came from behind. Out of the dark side of the moon, 8 human vessels decloaked simultaneously. They had been hiding in the lunar shadow, piggybacking on gravitational null zones, shielded from the Andromedian fleet's view. They didn't give warnings. The first human missile hit the Andromedian scout vessel's engine core. The second drilled into its bridge. The third disabled. The escape pods. Polaris Fang shuddered as debris from the exploding ship struck her hull. What in the black sun is happening? Vex snarled. A communication appeared, unauthorized, scrambled, and impossibly fast. It wasn't Council code. It was Terran. And it played across every Andromedian screen. This is Earth Defense Command. Your attempted invasion has failed. Your tactical assumptions were flawed. Your ships have been marked and intercepted. Cease operations immediately. Retreat while you can. No response, Vex snapped. Target the closest. Her command was cut off as a rail slug slammed into her starboard shielding. The ship buckled, alarm screaming. In a single coordinated move, Earth had responded, not just with defense, but with dominance. On Earth, Commander Mercer stood before a live tactical screen, eyes fixed on the space battle unfolding. We gave them mercy in the simulations, she said. We let them live. They didn't take the hint. She turned to Enzo. Deploy drones, track survivors. Capture what you can. If they send a second wave, we'll need a translator. Enzo raised a brow. You think they'll come again? They'll come, Mercer said coldly, but they'll never come the same way twice. In the Galactic Council chamber, news of the fleet's destruction arrived in shards distorted, panicked signals. Seether's hands trembled. Vex's voice was gone from the comms. The Keplerian ambassador, pale and shaking, murmured, "This wasn't defense. It was an ambush." A new word rippled through the chamber like a virus. Pre-calculated. The humans had expected this. They had plotted every orbital path, every strategic assumption. They had waited. And now they were done waiting. Above Earth, the few remaining Andromedan vessels turned tail and fled. But the stars weren't safe anymore. From beneath the oceans, from deep inside asteroids, from lunar caverns and solar satellites, more human ships were rising, and they were no longer content to stay home deep beneath the surface of Kepler. Station a floating citadel in the heart of the galactic core. An emergency session of the High Council convened. The air was thick with static. Holograms flickered under the strain of simultaneous data streams. Panic disguised as protocol. Ambassador Isdar stood silent for once, his tendrils curled tight across his chest. His mind replayed the transmission Earth. Defense Command's voice, firm, clear, and terrifying in its simplicity. It hadn't threatened. It had declared. The entire Andromedan strike fleet gone? Murmured the representative from Bastari, his breath a shimmer of gas through his vocal vents. We sent our finest war engineers. Centuries of conquest and refinement. They weren't just defeated, Kiral said, stepping forward from the shadows of the analyst row. Her voice trembled, but only slightly. They were anticipated. The room quieted. Kiral expanded her holoscreen. An image of Earth appeared, spinning gently above a grid of energy signatures. Thermal readings, magnetic pulses, and faint subspace distortions. Then, another layer: underground schematics, encrypted signal paths, stealth architecture hidden. Beneath continents. While we studied their skies, they buried their future beneath their soil. The council members leaned in, confused. Are you saying these apes prepared for us? I'm saying they never stopped, Kiral answered. We mistook disorganization for chaos, poverty for weakness. But these were masks, diversions. Their public systems, the space stations, the slow rockets, the feeble satellites were decoys. The real work was happening in shadows. Commander Thyrix of the Veil 10 Alliance hissed. That's not possible. How could a species with no galactic access build in secret? Kiral tapped again. A new feed opened. Infrared mappings of Earth's moon, time-stamped across decades. Small changes barely noticeable, but enough. A structure here. A transmission there. Shifts in gravitational echo beneath asteroid belts. They've been collecting everything, she said. Every alien signal, every crash-landed probe, every atmospheric ripple. Our garbage became their treasure. Another panel lit up images of recovered alien tech, fragments of Council scout vessels, ancient mining drones, abandoned listening arrays. Reverse-engineered, modified, perfected. They never asked permission, Kiral whispered. They just learned. Stir's voice, when it returned, was low. So we invaded a species that has been watching us as long as we watched them? Kiral nodded slowly. And now they're not watching anymore, she said. They're acting. The chamber dimmed as another message played. Human ships, sleek and dark, emerged from the shadows of Saturn's rings, launching synchronized into deep space. The footage was unfiltered. It wasn't a leak. It was a message. Deliberately transmitted. Earth was showing them what it wanted. Them to see. They know how we scout, Kiral added. They know our council worlds. They've mapped us, strategically, mathematically, psychologically. Vex's vacant seat glowed red-marked as missing in action. Ambassador Zarn of the Krixari Confederation rasped, Are we looking at retaliation? No, said Star. We are looking at something far worse. Kiral took a breath. Expansion. Silence. The humans aren't reacting anymore. She said, They're choosing their timing, their targets. They've spent decades preparing for this moment. And now they're ready to move. All around the chamber, screens flickered to a new image. a human fleet accelerating beyond Neptune, heading toward open space. The stars were no longer empty. The black beyond was now claimed. Thea's throat trembled. Send word to all sectors. Prepare for contact on our own soil. The tide has turned. And far across the galaxy, in systems that once scoffed at the name Earth, whispers spread like wildfire. The humans had risen, and they were coming. The stars above Kelmer Prime shimmered with their usual brilliance, unaware of the dread building across the surface of the Council's military capital. Beneath the shielded sky dome, Admiral Corinth stood in the command chamber of the Trisin. Defense Corps, his mandibles grinding with a tension he couldn't shake. He had seen war. He had led sieges against rebellion clusters. But this silence from Earth, after the failed invasion, was different. It wasn't retreat. It wasn't recovery. It was waiting. Calculated, patient, terrifying waiting. Then came the tremor. Not from Kelmer Prime itself, but through subspace. A ripple. 3 near-simultaneous energy spikes were detected in different sectors, each one far beyond what Earth was supposed to be capable of. Not FTL pings. FTL arrivals. Corinth's aide, feathered insectoid named Rella, darted toward the central platform. 3 unknown fleets have decelerated near Council borders, Admiral. Coordinates match the approach vectors for Kelmer Prime. Vastari and Thalnasix. Corinth's antennae stiffened. They're launching a multi-front incursion? Rella swallowed hard. It's not a raid. It's a strategic assault. Back on Kepler Station, the news dropped like a meteor in the Council chamber. 3 Earth fleets. Not one. Not scattered. Not chaotic. Synchronized.KIRELL stood silently as the data poured into the Council's secure feed. Each fleet decelerated. With tactical precision, she said. Not even our most disciplined strike units coordinate jumps with this level of unity. They don't have FTL, cried a representative from Grelin Minor. They do now, Kirel replied grimly. And it's not like ours. It's cleaner, less detectable. They didn't evolve our technology. They built something different. Admiral. Corinth activated the forward observation array, bringing Kelmer Prime's outer defense grid into full view. And there they were human ships, dozens. They didn't look like Council warcraft. There were no ornate power spines, no glowing honor. Crests. They were sharp, dark, functional, built not for intimidation, but for efficiency. Every line on their hull screamed logic and cold determination. That a message arrived, not encrypted, not masked, deliberately broadcast on all known frequencies. Of the Council's defense network, a human voice, calm and composed, filled the chamber. This is Earth Defense Command. Your attempts to subjugate our world have been noted. Your tactics analyzed. Your vulnerabilities mapped. We gave warnings. You called us primitive. We offered silence. You called us weak. Now we speak in the only language you seem to understand. Stand down. Or we continue. In the war chamber on Kelmer Prime, Corinth stared at the transmission, his limbs still. They're not bluffing, Rella said softly. I know, Corinth replied. That's what terrifies me. Across the Council's high systems, the human fleets positioned themselves with eerie precision, each one targeting infrastructure, not civilians, energy depots, orbital cannons, fleet relays. They knew exactly where to aim, as if they'd been planning this for years. On Thalna 6, satellites fell from orbit in synchronized patterns. On Vastari, communications blacked out without a single shot fired, hacked, not destroyed. They weren't just fighting back. They were dismantling the Council's ability to respond. Back on Earth, deep in the Borealis command complex, Commander Mercer stood with arms folded as more dots appeared across the galaxy. red for Council installations, green for human fleet movements. The red began to fade. Status? She asked quietly. Adjutant. Enzo replied. 3 targets neutralized. 0 civilian casualties. Enemy fleets retreating on 2 fronts. 1 holding position. Mercer nodded. Send the next message. Enzo raised a brow. To who? To everyone, she said. Make it clear, we're done hiding. Within hours, systems across the galaxy received the same broadcast. A human child speaking in clear, simple, standard galactic. We didn't want to fight, but now we will. If you threaten our home, we'll take yours apart quietly, efficiently, completely. Back on Kepler Station, the Council chamber dissolved into chaos. Dozens of species shouted at once. Some demanded surrender. Some called for escalation. Some just trembled in silence. Kirel stood in the center, quiet but unshaken. They told. Use what would happen, she whispered to herself. We just didn't listen. And far beyond the stars, more human ships blinked into existence. Not invaders, enforcers. The age of retaliation had ended. The age of reckoning had begun. The skies over Vastari were a deep purple, painted with rings of auroras from its twin moons. But for the first time in the planet's long and peaceful history, those skies were not beautiful. They were haunted. In orbit above the city world floated the remains of its defense grid, once proud and bristling with plasma arrays. Now nothing but drifting husks. Each platform had been shut down with clinical precision. No fire, no chaos, just silence. The lights had gone out, and Earth had never fired a single missile. Admiral Corinth stood in the Galactic War Chamber, staring at the live feed from orbit. They're not just attacking, he said, his voice a hoarse. They're studying us. On the far side of the chamber, Kirel tapped her glowing console and brought up footage of the human drones, thousands of them, deploying across Council systems. They were sleek, dark, insect-like machines with adaptive hulls and multi-frequency. Emitters. They moved like a swarm. They didn't kill. They recorded. They're gathering data, she confirmed. Every response time, every panic broadcast, every formation pattern, they're learning while dismantling us. High Speaker Mollenth of the Trinault Syndicate buzzed in panic. They're violating every law of war. Kirel looked up, her tone unflinching. So did we when we came for them. Council Elder Varun, whose race lived centuries and rarely spoke at all, finally rose from his slumber vault. This cannot be. No young species adapts at this speed. Kirel turned her gaze to him. Humans don't adapt like us. They don't evolve over millennia. They leap. When faced with extinction, they compress time into fire and learning into steel. Back on Kelmer Prime, emergency bunkers sealed as Earth's second fleet positioned above the southern hemisphere. No shots fired, no fleets destroyed. Instead, thousands of data packets rained down code, not bombs. Virus strands, mimicware. Earth's A has had reverse-engineered Council communications down to the quantum waveform. Within minutes, Kelmer's entire defense AI went offline. Admiral Corinth slammed his fist into the console. Get me anything that still works. Nothing did. Above Vastari, human vessels shimmered against the sky. Their engines barely glowed. Their presence was like ghosts seeing, only when they wanted to be seen. Suddenly, every screen in every major city across the 3 attacked systems lit up simultaneously. There was no override, no way to block it. The image, a human woman, middle-aged, calm-eyed, dressed in sleek black armor with no insignia. She spoke in perfect Council standard. We are the children of Earth. You called us primitive. You called us fragile. But when your ships entered our skies, we watched, we learned, and now we answer. This is not conquest. This is consequence. The feed cut to show captured council ships disabled, not destroyed. There, crews unharmed, but humiliated. One by one, they were being towed back to council space with encoded reports of what had gone wrong. Humanity wasn't just beating them. Humanity was teaching them a lesson. Back on Earth, Commander. Mercer entered the war-straught room, where a projection of the galaxy pulsed with council worlds, each one marked with warning sigils. "Status?" she asked. Enzo looked up, stunned. "They've stopped fighting. Entire fleets have gone dark. They don't know how to respond." "Good," Mercer said quietly. "Let them sit in it. Let them feel it." She looked up at the star map and tapped 3 new locations. "Begin Phase 4. Which is?" She turned to him, eyes cold as vacuum. "Diplomacy with leverage." Back on Kepler Station, Kirel stood before a stunned council, now a room of squabbling, factions and frozen faces. "They're not just expanding," she said. "They're building a new order, one where Earth isn't beneath us." The room fell quiet as one final message echoed across the stars. It didn't come from a general. It came from a child. A young human girl, no older than 10, stared into the screen. She stood beside a soldier in armor, holding his hand. She looked into the camera and spoke simply, "We didn't start this, but we'll finish it so no one ever tries it again." And in that moment, across every corner of the galaxy, the message was clear. Humanity had arrived, and it wasn't leaving quietly. Kelmer Prime's night was long and unbroken, its usual star-speckled sky now a dome of fear. Beneath its surface, in the Council's fortified command chambers, silence spread like infection. What began as panic had calcified into dread. Not a single Council world dared launch a counteroffensive, because the war wasn't a war anymore, Dot. It was a message, Dot, in the center of the chamber. The high-resolution holomap of the galaxy pulsed with human movement. Every minute, another green flare marked a human fleet appearing near a vital relay, an orbital factory or a Council data node, not attacking, not destroying, claiming space, Dot, with cold, calculated precision. Admiral Corinth, worn and motionless, stared blankly at the shifting dots. "They're rewriting the rules, without ever asking for permission." Kirel stood nearby, her voice low and steady. "They know us better than we know ourselves now. They've mapped our entire infrastructure, military, economic, psychological. Why? Haven't they struck the homeworlds?" asked Varuan, his voice a creak from his withered form. Kirel didn't answer immediately. Instead, she tapped her console. A new hologram shimmered to life this time. Not fleet movement, but a message. Not intercepted, not hacked. This one was addressed directly to the Council. The chamber darkened. A single figure stood in the off. Center of the projection. A human man, tall, weathered, wearing a black uniform with no rank. His eyes were gray steel. His voice was calm. Too calm. "This is Admiral Elias Reyes of Earth Defense Command. We are not invaders. We are not empire seekers. We do not conquer. We end cycles. You came to our world with ships and arrogance. You assumed we were behind, that we were less. You were wrong." His gaze didn't waver. "We watched you. We learned from your tech, your transmissions, your mistakes. You taught us how you conquer. And now we are teaching you how we endure. Your fleets are gone. Your systems are exposed. Your fear is justified." He took a breath, then leaned slightly forward, as if piercing straight through the chamber. "We offer you a choice. Stand down your militaries. Acknowledge Earth as a sovereign equal in the galactic order. Or, the next fleets won't ask permission, and we won't aim to spare you." The feed ended in dead silence. For the first time in known history, no one in the council chamber spoke. Kirel broke the silence. He's not bluffing. That man commands more fleets than we've counted. More systems are turning to Earth's. Side by the hour. Independents, fringe species, rogue AI colonies. They're aligning with humanity. Mollant buzzed nervously. Because of their strength? Kirel looked at him. No, because of their restraint. Because even now, even after we tried to burn their planet, they gave us a choice. Star stood at the edge of the chamber, unmoving, his long tendrils limp. He'd seen the same pattern in history books, cycles of arrogance, of underestimation. But he had never imagined it would be the humans who broke the wheel. Back on Earth, in the cold expanse of the Borealis Command Complex, Admiral Reyes turned from the camera. Commander Mercer stood waiting in the shadow. Do you think they'll accept? She asked. They already have, he said. They just haven't said it yet. She nodded. And if they don't? Reyes looked at the stars on the main screen. Then we finish what they started. At the edge of the galaxy, near the galactic core, the third human fleet Sentinel Armada emerged from a wormgate formed by experimental gravity inversion drives. They didn't stop to explain. They didn't send warnings. They simply arrived, and for the first time, the core species, those who once deemed themselves eternal, looked up and saw something impossible. Human warships. Above them, not broadcasting conquest, broadcasting judgment. And in that silent moment, the galaxy began to understand. Humanity didn't want revenge. They wanted peace, but peace born from fear, and now, that fear had a name. ChatGPT said, stars above the galactic core shimmered like a sea of cold fire, but their ancient light meant little now. The balance had shifted. The game was over. Inside the oldest chamber of the Galactic Council, an obsidian cathedral carved into the heart of Kepler Station, what remained of the High Assembly sat in hollow silence. Once they ruled 1,000 worlds with policy, power, and fear. Now, their words carried no weight, because Earth had spoken, and Earth was still moving. Ambassador Starr, who had once called humanity a mud-walking myth, stood trembling at the center of the hall. He didn't speak. He listened, as did the rest of the council, because the humans weren't broadcasting threats anymore. They were issuing terms. Across the chamber, a final transmission came to life. Admiral Reyes once again appeared in perfect clarity, but this time he wasn't alone. Behind him stood representatives from dozens of independent species fringe. Worlds, ignored civilizations, former slaves of the Council's old expansionist policies. All now stood with Earth. One among them, a crystalline woman from Sirith 9, stepped forward. For centuries, we were dismissed, observed, conquered, discarded. She turned, her translucent hands gesturing toward Reyes. But these humans, these primitives, they offered something we never received from the Council, respect. And when Earth was threatened, they didn't hide. They didn't beg. She paused, her voice steady and sharp. They rose. Reyes stepped forward. We are not your enemies, but we will never be your subjects. We propose a new accord, one that recognizes Earth as a sovereign equal among the stars. One that protects independent systems, limits militarized expansion, and ensures that no civilization is ever blindsided the way we were. He looked directly into the heart of the council chamber, into the terrified, hollow eyes of former tyrants. You will agree, or you will be left behind. As the feed ended, Council Speaker Varun collapsed back into his throne, his voice little more than wind. We underestimated them. No, Kirel said softly. We misunderstood them. All across the galaxy, the message rippled. On Velari Prime, former slaves of the Luthari rose, up-armed and inspired by human resistance tactics. On the moons of Draskell, rogue AI colonies signed declarations under Earth's digital protection. Net. And in the shadow of the collapsed Andromedian fleet, survivors drifted in escape pods rescued not by their own, but by human ships, given food, water, even medical aid. Because that's what humans did. They didn't just destroy their enemies. They showed them another way and made it hurt to choose differently. Back on Earth, under the starlit canopy of the United Defense Hall, Reyes walked through the crowds of engineers, scientists, soldiers, and children. They didn't cheer. They didn't chant. They worked, quiet, efficient, unshaken, because Earth wasn't celebrating. It was building. Above, in orbit, 1,000 vessels of the new Earth-aligned fleet rotated quietly in formation. Some human, others alien, all flying under one charter. Never again. Not a warning. A vow. And at the farthest edge of the galaxy, in a small council listening post that hadn't yet shut down, a terrified young technician stared at her console. One last blip appeared. A new signal. Not from Earth. From beyond. Unknown origin. Unknown language. Unmapped vector. She stared, breath catching in her throat. The signal was growing. Fast. She reached for the emergency beacon only to stop, because attached to the signal was a translation key. Human. The humans had already seen it. Already decoded it. Already prepared. She whispered, barely audible. In the dark. They're not just expanding. They're protecting us now. And the final truth rang clear across every star. Earth had come to the table late, but it had come ready. And the galaxy would never be the same again.